Hello, everybody. Welcome inside the Fantasy Hut for another Fantasy Football Playoff podcast. I'm the League Commissioner, David Kiarsis, coming to you as always to talk about the league. We've done a couple video podcasts over the last couple weeks. We broke down Week 13, broke down the quarterfinals. Now we're here to recap the quarterfinals just a little bit, but mostly here to talk about the upcoming semifinals. Our Final Four is set. It's quite a collection of teams. We're going to bring in, as we've done the last 2 weeks, we're going to bring in our owners to discuss the upcoming matchups. But first, the quarterfinals was some exciting action on Sunday and into Monday night. And I guess going back to Thursday, of course. And I think some of the storylines that we talked about last week, especially with Ball So Hard U, the importance of those Raiders and Buccaneers quarterback wide receiver combos and how important they were to its success. Their failures to come through ultimately doomed Ball So Hard U in its quarterfinal, and then not to mention the injury to Matt Forte early on in a game against the 49ers in which the backup Bilal Powell went nuts, put up almost 40 fantasy points. Those two things likely the difference in Ball So Hard U not being able to advance. Soon to be champ, our defending champ, back in the semifinals for the fourth time in franchise history, 4 playoff berths, 4 semifinal berths. And it's looking to try to repeat be the first repeat champion in the league since the first 4 years of the league. And it still has a chance to do that. It's going to meet Le'Veon's Bell in one of our semifinals. And then our other quarterfinal, Kamoli, similarly was done in by Melvin Gordon, early injury. Left in the first quarter. I think he had 3 carries, less than a point. And then I had spoke to Kamoli owner Jamie Kamoli Sunday morning. Forecast for snow in Buffalo, knew that it was going to make things difficult for him, and it did. Ben Roethlisberger throwing 3 interceptions. I think he only threw 5 passes in the second half. It was the Le'Veon's Bell show, and Kamoli really didn't have a chance. So the Sorge advances on to play myself, the commissioner, D. Butters, in what should be an epic playoff game. I'm excited for the challenge, but we're gonna talk to him a little bit later in the show. First, we're gonna bring in our owners of soon-to-be champ Jason Levine and Le'Veon's Bell, Kevin Kiarsis, to talk about their matchup first. So we're gonna get Kevin on the phone here.
Hello.
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 Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
Doing well. How you doing?
Good. Welcome to the show. I'm just gonna buzz Jason in here as well.
Hello.
Hey, Jason, how you doing tonight?
Great, bro. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining the show. I'm gonna merge the calls, get you on the line here with Kevin. All right, we got everybody on the line.
I'm here. Hey, Kev.
All right, great.
What's up, buddy?
All right, guys. So we're here on our third podcast of the season, our second playoff preview. We're talking semifinals. We're down to the Final Four. You guys are one of our first semifinal. We got the defending champ versus one of our hopeful champs. And I think a good place to start with Kevin. I think I've spent a lot of time talking about kind of the build up to this point for you. You made that big deal with Keith in the offseason. You've been building towards, the postseason, waiting for this moment. How you feeling about your team, coming into the playoffs and being back on the verge of another finals appearance?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, I made a couple off-season trades, and really I had one goal in mind, and it was to stockpile studs. And I just wanted to get in the conversation for making weekly wins and getting some money and just putting together some dominating performances. And I think my team has sort of lived up to that. I got a little luck along the way, not too many injuries, so I basically got to stick with the team I've drafted the whole way, and I'm confident that they'll bring me home a ship.
And you mentioned, you kind of your good fortune with health this year. I think that's another thing I talked about with your strategy, that was going to be one of the things you couldn't afford to happen. You're dealing with a Julio Jones issue now. Sat out last week. On the fence to play this week. If he does, how much will they need him against the 49ers? I think that game's at home. So thoughts on, what's your concern level with Julio, and how do you prepare for him possibly sitting out or maybe being a sort of a decoy?
Yeah, well, I'm happy he sat out last week. He got a little extra time to heal up, and who knows what's going to happen as the week unfolds. But it's definitely a concern. Whether he plays at all or if he's on a snap count. I mean, bottom line, if he's active, he's in my lineup, and if he's not, then I'm gonna have to put someone to fill in. My options are slim. If you look at my bench, most of my guys are just handcuffs or backup guys in case of a catastrophe. But I think he'll play, and I'm hoping he does a little bit better than last time Jason and I met, because I sort of attribute that loss to Julio not for putting up the numbers that I'm accustomed to seeing. So I hope he's in there.
And I think, Jason, before we get to your thoughts on this week's matchup, obviously that's what we're talking about here. We got to revisit last week. I'm not sure if you caught it, but Keith had a lot of negative things to say about you and the way you've run your team. But ultimately, he's the one who's eating crow now after you eliminated him last week. Any thoughts for Keith or general comments on last week's matchup and big win?
Yeah, so the first thing, I didn't know it until you told me, and I didn't even listen. Because Keith is an afterthought. It just doesn't matter. Like, this is clear. I don't know why I'd even listen to it. I feel bad for the guy, because this is literally his whole life. I feel bad. And I put probably about 25% of the effort he puts in, or thinks about it, and I just seem to win every year now. So I feel bad for the guy. That's honestly a Keith. I'm sorry, buddy. You just suck. That's it. I didn't hear the comments.
And then, so now looking forward to this week, and I think just generally, you're in a similar spot as you were last year, going into the semifinals. You were playing top-seeded Matty Natural Ice. You took them down, eventually won the title. Now you're back. You're facing the number one seed once again. You were 4-6, 4 wins later, and here you are with a chance to go to back-to-back championships. Describe kind of the roller coaster of the season and how you've been able to get here.
Yeah, first that team my team last year was better than this team, and they were on a roll last year. I think that's the first thing. This team is not as good, and I think and the team I'm playing, Kevin's team, is better than the one I faced last year. So overall, it's certainly going to be tough. Getting here unexpected, probably at 4-6. At 4-6, I didn't really have high hopes, but some things that didn't break my way earlier in the year broke my way later. And last week against Keith, I got a little lucky, or probably a lot lucky, with some of the things that went down with Cooper and Carr not really doing a lot, and Forte got hurt. So we'll see. I mean, it's definitely going to be tough.
And, Jason kind of spoke about it a little bit. Kevin, you may be surprised to see Jason across from you in the semis. General thoughts on the upcoming matchup this week and what it's going to take to get back to the championship.
Yeah, well, I remember years ago, Jason was sort of at the bottom of the league, and there was all this shit talking and trying to some nonsense about getting members out of the league when we talk about him and Sample. And I think it's clear he's turned his franchise around. He's put up some notable victories. He's brought home championships, and he's definitely made some good decisions this year. Put together a nice streak to get in the playoffs. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm surprised to play him, and nothing against his team, because clearly he's made the decisions and the moves to get into the playoffs, and he got a first round victory. But when I look at the remaining teams, I do feel like his team is sort of the weakest of the bunch, and I think I have a good chance to win. But with that said, I go into every week with my team, with my stud players, and every week I'm biting my teeth, thinking about whether I'm going to win or lose. So this is no different. It's a win or lose. You win and you're going on, and if you lose, you're out. So just hoping that my team puts together some numbers and Julio comes to play, and we have a good turnout at the end.
And then, Jason, you mentioned the task that's in front of you. Similar question for you. What's the key to you pulling off another upset and getting back to the championship to try to defend your title?
It's going to be difficult. There's no doubt. Like I said before, Kevin's team is legit. That's clear. he kind of builds it the way I have the same philosophy as Kevin in terms of you just get as many studs and hope they stay healthy. That's honestly the best bet. And that didn't really work out too well for me this year. But in general, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Kevin that mine's probably so before. But it seems like any single week in this thing, it really doesn't matter. Just kind of whatever happens that given Sunday, right? I hate to use that term. But so with that being said, I think to pull it off, the only thing I'm really figuring out at this point is the Tyrod Taylor shit. I don't know if I want to find someone else, which I am considering, or and then also Bilal Powell, who had 145 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, and Forte looks like is going to be out. At the moment, it looks like he will be out in practice today, which would be great, and I'll probably have to figure out a spot for him. And the last thing, which I'm actually most excited about, is typically I never get to watch any of this shit, but we play Saturday night against the Dolphins, which will be awful.
That's true.
But thankfully, I can finally watch, which is I never get to watch. So because thankfully someone decided to put us on prime time on a Saturday night, I'll be able to watch all the games Sunday and Monday, which is great.
And that's true. You do have that inside scoop on that Forte injury issue, so you'll be way ahead of the game there. And then, Kevin's got 2 guys on Monday night that the matchup.
Look, I'll tell you, I don't really look at these things a lot, but I saw in the cafeteria when I was leaving, and he didn't look good, and I was very happy.
That's great. I mean, it's just fitting that to win Week 13, Luck tears up the Jets. In the quarters, Carlos Hyde goes nuts against the Jets. You don't have any Dolphins.
Dude, I might need them. I mean, we suck. We're terrible.
Well, at least you're apparently not as bad as the Niners, I guess.
Well, yeah,
yeah. Well, all right, guys. Good luck to both of you. Hopefully, unlike last week, no injuries. Huh? Well, I was saying, hopefully no injuries for either of you guys, and it's the best versus the best. And good luck to both of you this week.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I'm looking forward to getting a nice little sweet taste of revenge against my season loss to Jason and whoever I play in the finals. I'll either get to get some victory against you, David, or take Swords down to the ground for the 3rd time this year.
Yeah, it should be some good stuff going forward. All right, thanks for joining us, guys.
All right.
And I think some other things that we didn't talk on, some of my keys to the game. I think first of all, some of the decisions that Jason might have to make. Tyrod Taylor, there's been some speculation about his job. If Forte is out, do you slide Powell in? If you slide Powell in, who you're sitting? And then let's not forget that Alshon Jeffrey has been suspended for 4 weeks. Soon to be champ. It hasn't been a great Alshon season by his standards, but soon to be champs won 4 straight without Alshon Jeffrey to get here, and now he's getting Jeffrey back, going up against Green Bay, who's been a susceptible defense. Not last week against Seattle, but generally this season. So some decisions and some things to watch for there with soon-to-be champ. And then for Le'Veon Bell, I think there are 2 things that stand out to me. Obviously, we talked about is the Julio Jones injury watch. For me, I just can only speak about how I would think about it. It's tough to say you're going to sit him if he's playing. I would probably say to myself, if he's playing, he's in my lineup. The difficult part about it is he plays at 4:00, so it'll be interesting to see how Le'Veon Bell, owner Kevin Kiarsis, manages the wire to come up with a backup plan or what his strategy is there. And then, the bottom line is it's Le'Veon Bell. I think of the 4 teams remaining, we all have players that can go off, but we all saw how good Le'Veon Bell is last week. He's just such a factor in every aspect of the game every single week. It doesn't matter who they're playing. He's one of the best players in football. And does Le'Veon Bell get 25 points from his namesake, or does he get 35 to 40? And that could be a big swing in determining who's able to advance to the championship. Either way, we're going to be having the defending champ going to his 3rd final to try to win back-to-back titles, or we're going to have Le'Veon Bell going to his 3rd final trying to win its 2nd championship. So certainly some intriguing storylines there. As for other semifinal, we're going to bring in the Sorge owner, Jamie Ansorge. We're going to chat. We're meeting up here in the semifinals. It's going to be our second postseason meeting ever, our first since 2008, and it should be a good one.
Hello.
Hey, Jamie, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Commish, I'm good. Pumped up for this weekend.
As am I. All right, so we're just gonna jump right into it. We had our fellow semifinalists on the wire just a little bit ago to talk about their matchup. Some good notes there. For you and me this week. I guess before we talk about the two of us and maybe a little bit of a transition, thoughts on how your team performed last week and what needs to continue or change into this week, moving towards hopefully the finals for this run to continue.
Look, just take a look at my roster. Just go on your computer right now. Take a look at my lineup. Tell me that's not a championship team. I dare you to tell me that is not a championship team. Because my team is firing on all cylinders right now. I'm not going to change a thing. Hold on, my dog's trying to eat chocolate, which would kill it.
It would.
And yeah, look, I thought I was going to score 200 last week. I put up 175. I love the fact that any guy in my roster could put up 40 this week. Doesn't mean that they will, but I'm pretty confident and can't wait to beat D-Butters to make it to the championship.
So all right, so if we're talking about the team wide aspect of anybody can go off, which I agree with you, and I think we've spent a lot of time talking about how good your team was, and all it really needed to do was get into the playoffs to have as good a shot as anybody else. Is there one player or matchup or someone on my team that you think is the most important kind of thing to point out here as key to the matchup?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I have the best running backs in the league with DeMarco Murray and David Johnson. Obviously, Odell and Tyreek Hill could go off, but this is a quarterback-heavy league. So I think for you and I this weekend, the big thing is going to be the quarterback matchups. With the QB1s, Rodgers versus Breeze, old school, MVP players, and then the QB2s, Manning and Cousins, where on any given week, these guys could put up 40 points or they could put up 5 points. So I think it's, which of those 4 guys goes off and which of those 4 guys might have a dud that could determine the outcome this weekend.
And I think the thing that, I'm probably going to write about and what I'm thinking about and what I think makes this matchup, so intriguing is that kind of the historical context. I mean, the only way it'd be better if it was you and me in the finals. We're the 2 winningest franchises in league history. We've both won multiple championships. You lead the league with 3. Personally, you've dominated me. You've won 11 of 14 over the years. I've only beaten you twice since we went to divisional realignment. So just kind of describe the emotions of the week and what it's like to be in a matchup of this magnitude with a chance to get back to another final.
Yeah, I feel like we've been here before, Dave, and I'm sorry that I always beat you. But it's probably going to happen again this weekend. And I'm glad I'm not going up against some fluky team. You have a great squad. I think I'll probably play Kevin in the finals. He is always a contender. So I'm happy to you have to beat the best in order to be the best. And I think I'm going to do that this weekend. So I'm pumped up, honestly. I've got no holes in the roster. Everyone's healthy finally for the first time all year. And I just can't wait to turn on my red zone on Sunday and hopefully watch my squad dominate.
And hey, that's the way I feel. I probably would have liked to have avoided you before the finals, but now that we're here, you got to beat the best to be the best. Everything that I just mentioned about what this matchup means. And for either one of us to beat the other person to then get to the final to either beat the number 1 seed or you're beating the defending champ for a chance to win another title. So,
for sure. Dave, I've got a question for you. Do you even watch these games? Are you too nervous to actually watch them? What's the deal?
So it kind of it varies. I'll say that for one thing, I'm not if I probably wasn't married, I maybe would be sitting on the couch watching football a little more. We kind of try to do things on the weekends, especially now that we're in Philly. We're kind of going out and looking around a lot.
Right.
I mean, I would say I'm probably more. I mean, I'm following it. Like I'm like, if I'm not
Right.
watching the games, I'm attached to my phone. Like I know when my guy is, in plus territory, has a chance to score. I know when it's 3rd and 5 at the 10-yard line, and my opponent has somebody who has a chance to score, and I'm watching that play. But I'm watching the play-by-play. I'm not necessarily watching the game.
Gotcha. Wow.
I mean,
Well, come Monday night, I will be sitting in front of my brand new TV, burning an effigy of Kirk Cousins, hoping that he shits the bed and puts up a donut.
Yeah, I imagine, assuming it's close and I haven't already accepted defeat because you'll already be done. I'll certainly be watching that Sunday night game and the Monday night.
I think
game
odds are it's going to come down to Kirk Cousins Monday night. So
we'll
that'll
see. I mean,
be...
hopefully. I mean, it's just.
How do you feel about that, Dave? How do you feel about Kirk Cousins?
I just feel like every time the Cowboys play in prime time, Des Bryant just doesn't do anything, and
yeah.
I mean, he put up a 0 last week.
Especially against Sonoris Jenkins and my G-men.
Yeah, I mean, he put up a 0 last week. And so, I mean, again, it sets up well for me, in my mind. Hey, I got my keeper on Sunday night, and now I get to have Cousins on Monday night to get revenge for week 1. So it sets up nicely, and hopefully it works out the way I want it to.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I thought watching Manning and Odell last weekend was like watching paint dry until he finally broke one loose. Yeah. But hopefully they can get something going against the Browns, because if those two guys go off, it's going to be trouble for you.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, we will.
All right, homie.
We'll see you this weekend. We get started on
Definitely.
Thursday with Doug Baldwin. Hopefully, we're both hoping to get off to a good start.
Yes, sir. I'll be texting you. Much love. Thanks for all your work for the league, Commissioner.
Of course. Thanks for joining the show tonight.
See you.
All right, bye. So for just a little bit of context, the Sorge and I, we're in different divisions, so we only played once this year. We played week 1, went into Monday night down 14, needed essentially 1 touchdown from Cousins, and he did not get one. Had one play where a guy got tackled at the 1, threw a pick on the last offensive snap of the game for the Redskins, and I lost. So fittingly, this semifinal matchup will come down to Kirk Cousins on Monday night at home against the Carolina Panthers. Cousins has been really good all year. Ended up not doing a trade mid-season that would have got me Brady and gave up Cousins. I feel pretty good about that, and I like Cousins matchups in the playoffs. So, Kirk fucking Cousins, if it comes down to you, you better get the job done this year, because he's been a guy I kind of been looking at as, a plant my flag type pick that I made in the draft, and hopefully this is the time when he really comes through. Some of the other things I'm looking at, at least with the Sorge, I asked him what his player to pick was, because he's got guys you could choose from that could go off for 40 easily. But the guy that I kind of wanted to avoid in the semifinals, and the reason I wanted to avoid the Sorge, was David Johnson at home against the Saints. I don't know if I can survive, a 30, 35-point explosion from Johnson, which, is almost what you have to expect from the guy, considering they're playing the Saints. So I just got to hope that they somehow hold him in check in some way, or that if Johnson goes off, it somehow leads to Drew Brees going off, which, I mean, that's the other thing with my team, is that I've never gone into a week feeling like I'm going to lose because of, my opponent. I've always felt that, each week along the way, I felt like my team was good enough to win each week along the way. You look at my losses, the one I just mentioned, to the Sorge, and then I had 3 divisional losses in the middle of the season, 2 of which I failed to score over 150, another one where I scored 151, and then the last week of the season, I lost to Matty Natural Ice when Drew Brees put up a 7 at home, where if you give me a normal performance, 20 more points, I win. So I think that the weeks that I've lost has been when my team hasn't come to play. So if we come to play, which, as the Sorge said, his team's looking good, we're going to have to come to play to win. And some of the factors that play into that is all my depth kind of that I was touting during the middle of the year has evaporated. What am I going to do at flex? Am I going to start both Chargers receivers, Tyrell Williams, Dontrell Inman? If Darren Sproles is clear of the concussion, does he stay in the lineup? Mike Wallace is there too. And then kind of looming in the background is A.J. Green, the possibility that he practices on Wednesday. If he does and he's healthy, similar to Kevin's mentality with Julio Jones, if A.J. Green is going to play and be on the field, he's going to be in my lineup, especially ahead of some of those other guys that we've mentioned. So I think, as I'll write about, I think our 4 teams kind of have their lineup set. There's some small decisions, but I think at the end of the day, it's maybe with the exception of A.J. Green, it's going to be my best against your best, Kevin's best against Jason's best, and hopefully no injuries and players play well, and we have some good matchups. And on Monday night, Kevin and I are marching on to play each other in the championship for the third time. So we'll see. Hopefully, again, it's another exciting playoff weekend, and again, one that, like Kevin said, I'll be biting my nails too. So we'll see how it all turns out, and we'll be back next week to talk championship. So, as always, thanks for joining us, and good luck to everybody this weekend.